Hey, let me make sure I'm live. I'm sorry that I'm late, you guys. I had to. Let me make sure I'm live. I'm sorry that I'm late, you guys. I do that every time, right? I forget to turn the volume down on my cell phone. I'm sorry that I'm late, y'all. I'm going to give everyone a minute to get the notification, and then we'll get started. I had some technical issues with the other live stream that I created, so I just had to create a new one. And then once I figured that out, my mom called, so had to take that call. But I hope you all have had a good week. I hope you're prepared for the weekend. I want to talk about some things. I have to vent first. And I have to encourage Black women to be sure that you have your own stream of income. Hey, Screek. Make sure you have your own stream of income, even if you have a regular job. Somebody tried to play in my face today with my job. I work from home, so they were playing in my face figuratively. So I had to deal with that. But now I'm getting ready for the weekend, and I hope you all are too. So I want to talk about some things, and let me edit my video title to what it was before. You might hear some typing in the background. I'm really sorry. Hold on. Hold on. It's gonna take me a minute. How are you guys doing? I know it's been a few days since I've been on here. I'm trying to find some other live stream options. You know, YouTube is kind of playing with people that have less than 1,000 subscribers. So I'm trying to find ways to live stream outside of YouTube and Google Hangouts. So I found another app that's supposed to be compatible with YouTube. So I may be trying that out in the next few days. Sorry, guys. I know the typing is annoying. I'm almost done. And please understand that the opinions that I'm about to express, hold up. Why is it doing this? My autocorrect. Hey, Mariah. I'm good, sweetheart. How are you? I love the name Mariah. My niece's name is Mariah, and her birthday is today. Hey, Tap. Is the typing relaxing? I'm glad. Thank you. All right, so let me get myself situated here. When I tell y'all these people on my job were playing in my face today, I was like, you know what? I'm glad I have another stream of income because y'all are getting on my nerves. These people on my job. But praise the Lord, it's the weekend, right? So there's been a lot of interesting conversations happening on YouTube, and I want to give my opinion, And me giving my opinion is not trying to control anyone. I respect the fact that, you know, for a lot of people, YouTube is entertainment. So you can go where you want to go and give attention to whatever you want to give attention to. I'm just here to provide a warning and a few reminders. Right, Tap. You know, a few years back, these black men on YouTube were saying that if they took a hard enough of a position, you know, and if they stood their ground, they could force black women back to the table. They could force black women to participate in their conversations. And so I feel like since black women are the topic of discussion, create your own platforms. And if these niggas want to hear what you have to say, make them come to you. You understand that there are black women on YouTube and other forms of social media, and whether or not I agree with all of their opinions is not relevant. But there are black women on social media who are dominating the conversation. And so I feel like, you know, if they want to hear your opinions, make them come to you. Hey, Kara, make them come to you. Make them come to your platforms. See, this is what a lot of these men are realizing. They're realizing that black women are the primary consumers in the black community. And that is true with women of all races. If you look at any racial group, the women are the ones who tend to spend money. So if they want to be able to come onto social media and earn a solid living, they get to this place where they realize their primary supporters need to be black women. So they start toning down their messages. But understand, all of these niggas feel the same. Because if you're talking to a black man and he's saying, oh, I don't agree with this dude because he's too extreme, but the man saying that is not married to a black woman that he is financially supporting and providing for, and he's not with a black woman that he's committed to and loyal to, then he cannot be taken seriously either. Understand that in these conversations, these men are not saying we need to marry these black women. We need to provide a solid community structure for black women and children. They're simply disagreeing with the extremism because they understand, oh, these men with these extreme views are hurting our image. That's all they're concerned about. They're simply concerned about protecting the image of black men. But at the end of the day, when you look at these men's channels and they have thousands of subscribers and hundreds of people watching them live, that shows you that they're being supported by black men and black women that tend to be male identified. And that's another thing I want to talk about too, because listen, you have a lot of black women that don't call black men out for their niggatry unless those black men are directly coming for them. You have black women who have been divested, who have been pro-interracial relationships for nearly 10 years, who have been denigrated and harassed, not only by black men, but by black women. And now you have people suggesting that the women in this space are bitter and we need to, quote unquote, get over it. But see, the reality is that when people come on here and express their opinions, they're saying things that can affect you in real life. You know, there's a woman who was a content creator in this space, and she's in an interracial marriage, and she talked about how she was called a bed wench while she was out with her husband. Why? Because that's a Black man who's probably listened to certain content on social media, who felt like he could harass this woman while she was simply going about her daily business. And that's a good point that you made, Tap, because you have certain Black men who supposedly are pro-Black women and pro-Black love, right? But they have no problem developing friendships and relationships with Black men who are very critical of Black women. And to me, that's very telling. And so I would just say to the Black women who want to support these men and their platforms, if you have a Black man and he's telling you that he's pro-Black women and pro-Black love, is he married to a Black woman that he is financially providing for and one that he's faithful to? If not, you can't take that nigga seriously. He's full of shit, and he's just like those other dudes in the manosphere. The difference is some of those guys are honest enough to directly tell you how they feel. And then you have these other dudes saying, oh no, that's not the case. You're just concerned about your image because you realize that if more Black women come to the understanding that most of these niggas don't give a fuck about Black women, then there's going to be a change in how Black women act. These dudes want to be able to live with you and have kids with you and not give you the benefit of marriage. All Lauren London got from her relationship with Nipsey Hussle was a child and the tattoo that she got. And you're absolutely right, Mariah. We have a content creator with a large platform who has a non-Black wife. And in the past, he called Black women in interracial relationships bed wenches, and he referred to the collective of Black women as hyenas. And yet, a lot of his supporters and a lot of his patrons are Black women. You're financially supporting men who are taking your money and using that money to build an empire with a non-Black baby mama. Tony Soprano. Right, Tap. Okay, Deacons of Defense. It's not about not liking Black men. Calling you out on your behavior is not disliking Black men. And the reality is, if you are not in a marriage with a Black woman that you are providing for and building for, then you're full of shit. Okay? Hey, Bruna. Hey, Delphia. And you're right, Tap. What is there to love about a collective of men who are talking shit about you? Who are all over social media saying that you're not worthy of relationships and marriage? What is there to love about a group of men who are out here saying that it's not their responsibility to build for Black women? What is there to love about a group of men who actively talk about, quote unquote, saving themselves? What is there to love about a group of men who talk about leveling up when it comes to non-Black women? These men know that if they want to get a non-Black woman, they have to have certain resources economically. They have to have their looks together, but they won't do that for Black women. What is there to love? Why shouldn't we hate you? What have you done to deserve not to be hated? You're talking about nearly 10 years of social media content that is very anti-Black woman. And the Black women who were speaking out 10 years ago, when it wasn't popular to have these messages, were mercilessly harassed. You niggas give platforms to men who obviously hate Black women. There's a guy who created a certain website, and on that website, he has talked about nearly all Black women on YouTube, whether those women are divested, swirlers, or pro-Black. And yet those men are allowed to come on certain platforms and give their opinions. So why should we love you? When you're talking about we don't deserve anything, we don't deserve, to have men build for us. What is there to love about Black men as a collective? You have to understand something. If a man doesn't respect you enough to provide for you and marry you, what that man is saying is that he doesn't care about what happens to you if he dies. He doesn't care about your ability to provide for yourself. He doesn't care about setting aside a provision for you. He doesn't love, respect, or value you enough to make sure that you won't end up on the streets if something happens to him. That's what they're saying to you. That's what they've been saying all over social media. And that's why it is my personal opinion that as Black women, we should not be giving these men our time, our attention, our financial resources, because you have to understand how YouTube works, okay? The way that YouTube works is that the algorithm will promote videos based on viewer engagement. So engagement includes likes, dislikes, and comments. So any video that you watch and rate helps that video get pushed through the algorithm. These men don't deserve any of your attention or your views as long as they're sitting on here saying Black women don't deserve to have men build for them. And as long as the marital rates are what they are. Black men are bachelors at a higher rate than any other group of men in this country, for those of us who are in the US. So they are extremely unlikely to get married. And that's what we have to pay attention to. And you're absolutely right, Mariah. When it comes to that website, they hate Black women and they don't want anyone to desire us. But now the guy who created that website is coming onto YouTube for attention and views. Because again, disagreeing with these people doesn't matter. Thumbsing down their videos doesn't matter. The engagement helps promote the message. And you have to understand that dude is talking about American Black women, and he's not even from the US. But he's being given a voice on certain platforms. Because you have to understand something. These dudes already support each other. Even if they get online and they say, oh, certain guys are so extreme and this, that, and the third. Listen, if they're on a panel with those dudes, if they're participating in the comments, if they're in the comment section, that's support. Because a lot of these guys understand how the YouTube algorithm works. And you're right, Strink, even hate watching helps promote their videos and it helps promote their message. And I wouldn't be me if I didn't tell you, like, no, you shouldn't be watching their videos. You shouldn't be supporting their content. And support is liking, downvoting, or even simply watching. Now, like I said, I understand that there are Black women who want to have areas where Black women with different opinions can come together and talk. But when it comes to these dudes and their hate messages, hell no. Absolutely not. And they all want in on the money. That's why they're coming onto YouTube now. And that's why they're acting like, oh, no, we don't all feel this way. Nigga, are you married to a Black woman? And if you're married to a Black woman, do you make more money than her? Are you supporting her financially? Are you committed to her and loyal to her? If not, you're just like these niggas. Okay? Hey, Divested Swirler. You didn't miss a lot. We just got started like 20 minutes ago. You're right, Mariah. And it's not just him. A lot of these guys search for the worst videos about Black women and then use those videos to make these sweeping generalizations about all of us. But then if you make content saying something that's not kissing a Black man's ass, you will get all these hate comments. You get all these people trolling you because their commentary is made under the guise that, oh, well, you know, Black women need to be able to receive feedback. Okay, listen, a lot of these men are not in the position to give anyone feedback. A lot of these men live very fucked up lives. They have had several failed relationships. They've been repeatedly rejected, and they've never gotten over it. And so what happens is they come onto social media talking shit about Black women when they haven't dealt with the fact that they have been rejected. You'll take the most undesirable Black men and you'll have them sitting here saying, oh, well, Black men don't get chosen. That's not the truth. They don't get the women that they want because they're not desirable. Listen, if you're an average looking person, then the majority of people who are going to be attracted to you are going to be average looking. You know, if the high level people in the looks department, you know, the 8s, 9s, 10s are not attracted to you, then that means you're not in that high level. And they have no problem communicating that message to Black women, but they don't understand that about themselves. A lot of these men are rejected by the women that they want, and they spend their whole lives being bitter and angry about it. As men get older, if they don't make a lot of money, they're not going to be attractive to a lot of women. That's just the reality. If you're not that attractive anyway, you're short, you don't have attractive features as a man, then certain women aren't going to be looking for you. Now, ugly men with money can get top-notch women in the looks department. But if you're broke, then, I mean, it's not, you know, it may not quote unquote be fair, but that's life. Now with women, it's kind of different. A woman who is decent looking with a great personality can pull quality dudes. That's just life. Hey, Sphinx Lake. That's just life. And instead of just accepting that, they spew their hatred all over social media. So now they have these conversations where they're saying, oh, certain guys don't represent all of us. Yes, they do. It's just that those guys are honest enough to say exactly what y'all are thinking and feeling. And you don't like that because you're concerned about how it's going to affect your image. You're right, Delphia. If a man was financially secure, attractive, and married, he wouldn't care about who you were with. That's why I believe a lot of these men are lying about their relationship status. That's true, Divested Swirler. A lot of them have been rejected by society. And they're taking their frustration out on the only group of people that they have power over, which is Black women. Because Black women are at the bottom of the ladder in terms of how society views us. That's true, Mariah. A lot of times women do take rejection better. A lot of Black men can't take rejection. That's why there are so many stories about them shooting and killing their ex-girlfriends or their ex-wives. That's why. Delphia, what happens is a lot of them end up with non-Black women. Those relationships don't go well, and they try to come back to Black women. I've seen guys who have 2, 3, and 4 children with non-Black women, and then they try to come back and date Black women. But it's like, if you don't have children, why would you want to date someone that has a bunch of kids all over the place? Hey, Anon Wyatt. See, they talk about how a lot of them don't want to deal with single mothers. But why would a Black woman want to deal with a single father? Particularly if she has her shit together and she doesn't have kids. Like, why would you want to deal with a single father? Why would you want to deal with his baby mama drama? Why? So I'm just saying, Black women, we have seen the way a lot of these guys have acted on social media. We have seen the way that a lot of them are gossip girls when it comes to Black women, and the things that some Black women have gone through in their personal lives that have played out on social media. Do you understand how disgusting it is that a lot of these Black men take pleasure in the issues that certain Black women have dealt with in their personal lives? How they'll find out about something that a Black woman has dealt with in her personal life and talk about it on social media. I've even seen, listen, there's a Black woman in this space who is married, and she's been married for quite some time. And you have Black men on here saying, well, we've never seen her husband, so how do we know that she's actually married? Listen, a man who is enterprising, who is hardworking, is not going to be all over social media. You know, he's going to respect the fact that his wife, you know, does this as a means of living, but he's not going to insert himself all over his platform, her platform. But a lot of these guys, they're so obsessed about knowing what goes on in your personal life. Right, Mariah, they talk about how a lot of Black women are only worth $5. Well, that's because a lot of Black women are raising the children that Black men have abandoned. And they even talked crap about Nipsey Hussle's mother. They tried to say, oh, the reason that he was in a gang is because he was raised in his mother's Black American culture. Well, then we find out that Nipsey Hussle's parents were married, but his father was abusive. And when the wife divorced him, he was raised by his mother and grandmother, but he also still had some type of relationship with his father. So he was the product of a 2-parent home. and still made his own bad decisions and ended up participating in certain activity. But they were so ready to take on the single mother narrative. That's a good point, divested spoiler. Look at Wendy Williams. Her and her husband have been married for 20 years. And her husband had the fucking audacity to cheat on her and get the other woman pregnant. That's such a slap in the face to her, because Wendy Williams, I think, had like 4 or 5 miscarriages. And then when she got pregnant with their child, she was on bed rest for much of the pregnancy. He cheated on her during that pregnancy. She forgave him. And now, after spending all those years with him and their child, I think their son is in college, and he had the fucking audacity to have a child with another woman. And that's not the first time I've heard of that. They do create a lot of single mothers tap and then have the nerve to hate on single mothers. They feel no financial responsibility to their children. They feel no responsibility to be present in their children's lives. Yeah, they want Black women when they're around 60. Yeah, and then they have the nerve to want young Black women when they're old and their balls are dragging down to the ground. They do love to harass us, Delphia. They created entire platforms to harass us. And the reason that those platforms have grown the way that they have is because the majority of Black men want to hear that type of content. They want to hear Black women being dragged, harassed, and abused. That's what they want. Right, Mariah, when they're on breathing machines. That's true. Right, divested swirler. Like, I heard some guys talking about certain Black women who are in interracial relationships or marriages. And these are men who are supposedly heterosexual who were saying, oh, well, when they get white men, they're not attractive. And it's like, well, who are you to determine what's attractive to a heterosexual woman? Like, maybe there are other things that she likes about him. Hey, Vanessa. Maybe there are other things she likes about him. Maybe he's able to provide for her financially. Yes, he does hate Black women, Vanessa. And this is the danger with foreign Black men. Listen, I have a family member that was in a long-term relationship with a Black man from a different part of the world, and he was very abusive. You know, you have to understand those societies are even more misogynistic than the Western world. So he was very abusive. He was very nasty. So yeah, a lot of times they're not worth dating. And they have also taken on the mentality of Black American men when it comes to Black women. So a lot of them have an extreme level of hatred for Black women from the US or Black women from the Western world in general. And you're talking about Black men who come from places where, you know, in some parts of the world, when a Black woman is raped, there's no legal recourse for her. There's no law enforcement system that she can go to and seek justice. So, you know, it can be very dangerous dealing with them. Right, they're not saying anything about Wendy Williams' husband. That's true, Mariah. A lot of Black women in interracial relationships or marriages don't, you know, feel like they have to put their husbands or boyfriends on display. And that makes sense. It's smart not to let people have access to your personal life. Right, Tap? Yes, divested swirler. I think you're talking about B. Smith. She's suffering from Alzheimer's. And he can't even wait for her to die. You know, he can't even just take care of her and, you know, love her enough to allow her to be comfortable in her last years. His mistress is his wife's caregiver. That's just disgusting. And a lot of these black men are not calling it out. If anything, they're condoning that behavior. That's true, Bruna. A lot of them try to pick up young girls and then they get mad because, listen, if a 25-year-old girl is going to deal with a 50 or 60-year-old man, she wants that man to be able to provide for her financially. And it makes sense. I encourage young women to not deal with broke older men. It's not worth it. I don't blame you, Delphia. That's what they do because a lot of these black men, they will try to interfere in your relationships, even though a lot of them, based on what they've been saying for the past few years, don't desire black women. And how miserable and hateful do you have to be to not want a woman, but not want her to be with someone else? Like, that is so miserable, hateful, and controlling. Yes, Vanessa, I was thinking about Wendy Williams and her commentary on Mary J. Blige, and I thought that was kind of ironic. Because the thing with Wendy is that her and her husband have been married longer than Mary J. was married to that bum. And so, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that divorce. She's going to have to pay him a lot. Yep, a lot of mammies tap. They totally dismiss black women's concerns. I believe that, Bruno. You're from South Africa, right? I've seen some documentaries on YouTube about the rape culture in parts of Africa. I've heard about the Caribbean too, Mariah. Right, Delphia, the mistress is the caregiver. Like, what kind of shit is that? Tap. Yeah, I see your point, Tap. But I think that I'll say the only good thing about that slaying evil dude coming onto YouTube is that it's going to show black women that non-American black men are even worse than black men in the US. That's true, divested spoiler, because what a lot of these guys do is they get with a younger woman because they feel like younger women won't have an expectation of marriage. So if they get with a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old, they figure they can deal with her for at least 10 to 15 years before she actually expects marriage. So I feel like if you're a 19 to 30-year-old woman, 19 to 30-year-old black woman that deals with older men, don't deal with men that don't have money. And when I say money, like, if you think about it, I think she ended up having to give some of the stuff back. But if you think about that girl, V. Stiviano, that was dealing with that dude, something Sterling, when she was dealing with him, he brought her cars, a paid-for condo or townhouse. Okay, like, that's what you do when you're dealing with an older man. If you're going to deal with all of the hangups that comes with older men, you need to make sure that they can pay for you financially, because they're benefiting from dealing with a younger woman. So yeah, don't waste your time with the older broke dude. Yeah, Bruna, because a lot of black men only want lighter skinned black women or biracial black women. But their thing with darker skinned or brown skinned Black women is that they use those of us who are darker skinned or brown skinned as kind of like a fallback. So if those relationships with their ideal women don't work, then they feel like they should be able to come back to the brown and darker skinned Black women. And so they get upset when they realize that those women are able to get into relationships and marriages with other men who actually will value them enough to be in a real relationship with them. Yep, Mariah, they were so ready to blame his mother and to try to call her ghetto and stuff, and they stopped that once she came onto social media and she gave some commentary. You can tell she's a very deeply spiritual woman, and you know, I get the impression that she has a very beautiful spirit, but they were so ready to put her into a certain category. Okay, Bruna, so you say it's bad all over Africa. I've heard people say that. And I'm inclined to believe it just based on some of the stuff I've seen. I believe that divest is swirler. I believe that. Because again, they come from cultures where they're so, you know, in a lot of parts of the world, there's literally nothing in place for women to go to law enforcement. You know, the men are so controlling that they don't believe that anything is wrong with rape. And so it's, to me, it's very scary and disingenuous to encourage Black women to deal with foreign Black men who come from those cultures. And when you look at the majority of places that are predominantly Black, you know, a lot of them have these cultures where the women talk about being raped and sexually abused, and they talk about how there's no mechanism in place for them to get justice. And with a lot of people that come from different parts of the world, they bring their ideas with them. And so if you're dealing with a man who doesn't respect women, doesn't respect women's bodies, then he's going to bring those ideas with him. That's a good point, Tap. I've noticed that. And I don't understand why so many Black men are surprised by that, because the opposite is true as well. There are a lot of Black men who say that they don't like or trust white men, but they have no problem fucking Becky. No problem at all. There was a wrestler, I think it was Hulk Hogan, and he said something that was offensive to a lot of people. And you had Black men on YouTube basically saying that they would screw his daughter. And I'm like, so that's what you took from that? He said something that a lot of you viewed as racist, and your only response was, oh, I would screw his daughter. Mariah, I believe that after listening to that dude from that Slaying Evil website. He's trash. I believe that divested spoiler. Yeah, Tap, like, I'm telling you, if we're talking about the same person, he has a whole website where he uses that website to talk trash about Black women on YouTube, including Black women who are pro-Black. Like, I have seen Black men say that, oh, well, you can't even trust the Black women who act like they support Black men. So they don't even trust Black women that are supporting them. I believe that divested spoiler. There was a documentary that I saw on here where it was a guy, he was an African man, and he's married with children. and he did a documentary talking about the rape culture in his country and talking about how even the African men with HIV will rape virgins because they say they believe it will cure them. I don't think they actually believe that. I think they're just so hateful that they want to pass their disease down to Black women and Black girls. There have been underage Black girls raped by these fucking heathens. Yeah, Mariah, his mom is very hippie-ish. Just very, I don't know, her energy is just very beautiful. That's true, Bruna and Tap. Sure did say that. Yeah, divested spoiler. Even if you think about what Nick Cannon said recently, Nick Cannon said it, and I think, what is that dude's name? I can't think of his name, but he was a Black Panther. But they both basically said that the best way to fight white supremacy was having access to white women sexually. See, that's why Black men never fought for, the 40 acres and a mule. Their reparations was sexual access to white women. That's all they wanted. They wanted sexual access to white women. Yep, Delphia. Like it would hurt him. And, who's to say that she would even want to deal with a Black man? I've seen white women, listen, these white women, when you see them on certain forms of social media, it's interesting. I saw a white woman on a white supremacist channel saying that the only white women that she knew that actively sought relationships with Black men were white women who were drug addicts and like meth heads. She literally said that. Yep, I saw that, Mariah. Hey, I can care less. I saw that. Even though Nipsey's daughter, to me, is not light-skinned, she's a beautiful girl. When I look at her complexion, it's more brown skin to me. But it's getting to this place where light skin is being equated with beauty by Black men. So any woman that they want to call pretty or attractive that's a Black woman, they refer to her as light skin. Even when she's clearly brown. His daughter's a beautiful girl. That's true, Delphia. They literally view sexual access to white women as meaning something. He did divest his spoiler. What he did is he liked a tweet where another Black man said that, and then he tried to dismiss it. Even though he was raised by his Black mother and his Black grandmother, he said that Black women he agreed with a tweet that said Black women are a disgrace to the Black community. And when I see Black men saying things like this, and then I look at their lives and I see, oh, you had one child with a Black woman and then another child with a biracial woman who has one Black parent, it's like, well, maybe that's why you never married either one of those women. Yeah, he was not married to Lauren London. His death certificate says never married. And matter of fact, I've seen Black men in comment sections on YouTube and on Facebook talking about how they have no intentions of marrying their baby's mother and how they're simply living with her until their children are 18 so that she can't collect child support. But, a lot of these women just have to learn the hard way. That's true, Mariah. I have never seen a Black woman in an interracial relationship or marriage make her decision about a hatred of Black men. They'll simply just say, well, I'm in this relationship with this guy because this is who I'm compatible with. This is who I fell in love with. But Black men have created an entire campaign to bash Black women, to talk shit about our image. And they say, well, you all are so horrible that we have to deal with non-Black women. Instead of simply saying, well, this is my preference. This is who I'm attracted to. I happen to fall in love with this woman. Everything they do is about the Black woman. And at this point, it's so pathetic and it's so laughable to see a group of men not take ownership and responsibility for their actions. That's true, Tap. That's true. That's why a lot of them, that's why we see the down low stuff. And there are gay Black men and transgenders that will talk about how so-called heterosexual Black men will sleep with them. As a matter of fact, I saw a comment section where you had these guys talking about the jail culture, and you literally had white and Hispanic men in the comment sections talking about how common it was for Black men in jail to sleep with each other. Yep. And when you think about it, Mariah, Black women's attitudes, we're not any worse than any other group of women. As a matter of fact, for example, when you think of women like Kylie Jenner and the colorful wigs that she wears and the personality that she takes on, she's taking on the personality of a Black woman. So they don't have a problem with our image or, our fake hair or our colorful hair. They don't have a problem with that as long as that is being represented by a woman that's not Black. Yes, I can care less. Their view of liberation is sexual access to white women. And it's so pathetic. Yeah, divest swirler. I mean, why would we give them anything other than attitude with all the stuff they're saying on social media? And they can say, oh, it's just for views and content. That's absolutely not true. That's how, this stuff they're saying on social media matches how they feel. And you can look at the marital rates and the number of Black women raising children alone to see that it's true. Yes, Mariah, listen, one thing I've noticed about these white women in relationships with Black men, you can tell that a lot of these Black men in these relationships are talking all kinds of crap about Black women because it means something to the white woman's ego to be in these relationships with these men. And that's why they get in their feelings when you don't pay attention to it. And I have actually seen situations where these Black men and white women in interracial relationships will have the audacity to get upset about seeing a Black woman who's in an interracial relationship. My sister has experienced that. Yep, divested spoiler, that's the game. And that's why I don't advocate Black women living with Black men outside of marriage. Because these men know what they're doing. They know that if they stay in a relationship with you, you're going to feel an emotional bond. And the whole time that man is just counting down the days, months, and years to leave you. That's true, Vanessa. And a lot of them will also quit their jobs so they don't have to pay child support. They'll move from different states to avoid paying child support, even when their child support is only like $50 or $100. I'm telling you, divested swirler, I think a lot of these Black men in these long-term relationships where they're living with a Black woman that they haven't married, that's how they feel. And they're so selfish that they'll lock that woman down for all those years And I just wish more Black women would get the point. Wow, I can care less. 3 of her sons are married to non-Black women, and the single one is gay. Yeah, I'm telling you, they view relationships with Black women as a downgrade. So it doesn't matter how nice you are to them, how well you treat them. They don't value Black women. So I feel like, okay, if that's literally, I feel like if that's how they feel, we shouldn't be giving them time, attention, or any type of support. Yes, Bruna. Remember when I think it was Kim Kardashian? She had cornrows. I think in the Caribbean they call them cane rows. And she had the audacity to call them boxer braids. And people, you know, all the white people were acting like, oh, this new trend, boxer braids. It's like, bitch, these are cornrows. And you're trying to take something from Black women and give it your own name. But you know what? Black men support it. I agree with that. I can care less. Like, a lot of Black women support these Black men and their hatred of Black women. So even if it's a Black woman who's never been chosen for marriage by a Black man, or a Black woman where all the Black men around her have married non-Black women, they'll still say, well, you should marry a Black man. How can you marry a Black man when most of them are obsessed with non-Black women? Yep, box braids and huge hoops. They call it alternative. But on a Black woman, is viewed as quote unquote ghetto, even though we're the ones who created that trend. Tap, I think they are. They're definitely cursed. Wow, that's interesting, Vanessa. I bet a lot of men do that. Really, divested squirreler? Because see, since they make so many of their decisions based off of Black women, they assume that we do the same. When it's like, okay, no, you're in a relationship with the man that you're with because that's who you fell in love with, and it's not anyone's business, and you don't owe anyone an explanation. And a lot of these Black men that have the audacity to question the relationships of Black women in interracial relationships and marriages, a lot of those Black men wouldn't marry a Black woman anyway. And even if they would marry a Black woman, they wouldn't be in a position to, you know, provide you with resources or to provide for you financially. Oh, Dutch braids. Okay. Yeah, and I'm like, those are cornrows or cane rows, depending on what part of the world you're in. That happens a lot, Mariah. That happens a lot. My husband's father did that. My husband didn't see his father from the time he was 7 to the time he graduated from high school. And then after he graduated from high school, he didn't see his father again until he graduated from college. The Coco flip. I believe that, Vanessa Weiss. Ice-T jumped up and told Black women to stop hating. Wow. I believe that. Because they rename stuff so that they don't have to give credit to Black women. I don't blame you, Mariah. Yeah, I can care less. And they're like, oh, you need to stay with the Black man. So it's like they're saying, oh, you need to stay with a collective of men who are actively saying that they don't want relationships or marriages with Black women, and they don't feel like they have to build for you as a Black woman. It's like, what is there to stay with? Dealing with them means that you're going to be perpetually single. Yeah, at this point, Vanessa, I think that they're literally just trolling black women with that. I believe that, Mariah, because I don't think he's ever dealt with a black woman, even though people act like, oh, he's this huge civil rights leader. And it's like, well, okay. Well, if he can be pro black and pro civil rights, then why do they get so mad about Angela Davis? You know, and they talk about, I think Angela Davis's husband is white. And it's like, well, can you blame her? She was directly involved with the Black Panthers and saw a lot of their misogyny, so why would she deal with a black man? Yes, Bruna. Wow, I can care less. See, they blame everything on white supremacy. They don't take any accountability for their actions. And see, I think this whole, I'm not going to say that racial injustice doesn't exist, but what I will say is that a lot of black men use that as a crutch, and they use it to excuse all of their behaviors, you know? Yep, Mariah. I know that one of those guys that was like huge in the Black Panther movement said that. And then Nick Cannon said it recently. Yes, divested swirler. A lot of them are single. They hate swirlers and divested women. And they're single. They don't have a black man in their lives. And it's like, sis, you deserve better. And you're defending a group of men who aren't choosing you. Yeah, I can care less. I don't see why they bother her. I mean, because I think she has said that her personal preference is for black men, but she also has no problem with black women who choose interracial relationships simply because, you know, for a lot of black women, if you hold out for black men, then you're going to be single for the rest of your lives. And they make these decisions not to marry black women and then laugh at you for the marital rates. Do you see the fuckery? They say, oh, black women don't get married. Well, that's because a lot of you choose not to marry black women. That's true, Delphia. I don't understand why they try to force their decisions on other people. Like, you can be with who you want to be with, but what does another woman's choice have to do with you? And the reality is that a lot of people don't know how to separate, um, they don't know how to separate their personal situation from what the majority of people experience. And the reality is that a lot of these black men who have something going for themselves are actively saying that they're not going to choose black women. So why encourage black women to hold on to those types of men? Yeah, I can care less. They just need to leave black women alone and respect our decisions. That's who it was, Eldridge Cleaver. And you have a lot of black men on social media who defend what he said. So for these black men who say, well, you have a lot of racist white men who will get into relationships with black women. Well, okay, you have a lot of black men who spend their entire lives railing against white supremacy, but they have no problems being in relationships and marriages with non-black women. And we see some of those men on YouTube whose entire platforms are about white supremacy and about how black people are mistreated. And then you look at who they go home to every day. Okay? Yeah, that's true, Tap. You would think that they would hope that more black women would date out, so there would be more black men for them to choose from. Yes, Mariah, those FBI reports. That's why it always bothered me that Coretta Scott King never remarried, because she was still very young um, when he was assassinated. And so, and she was a beautiful woman, but I don't understand why a lot of black women stay committed to black men even in death. I've seen black men lose their wives and 6 months later be in new relationships. Yep. That's true, divested swirler. Yeah, I can care less. They do hate and despise black women and black girls. One thing that made me think of that was Lauren London's comments at Nipsey Hussle's funeral. She talked about how her heart breaks for her 2-year-old son and didn't mention Nipsey Hussle's daughter at all. And I'm like, okay, her heart's probably going to be broken as well because she actually has a memory of her father. And this is a lot for her to deal with, but her only concern was for her son. Yes, Sphinx, like I heard about that. Like he straight up killed her. Tap, she could have. You know, she was a very classy and beautiful woman. Yes, he said black women represent struggle. That's true, Vanessa, and like people have no problem with him saying that. It's like, see, black men believe that they can be pro-black and create black families regardless of who they end up with. But then if you're a black woman in an interracial relationship or marriage, they feel like that automatically excludes you from being able to talk about the issues that you face. Because at the end of the day, if you exist in this world as a black woman, you're still going to deal with certain issues. And unfortunately, a lot of male identified black women support those talking points. And so, you know, that's why there are certain things that I just wanted to speak out on, because it's like, yes, black women, please support whatever channels you want. Just understand that if certain people benefited from your pain and benefited from talking shit about you, then it's my opinion that they don't deserve your support. Yeah, divested swirler was only one, because a lot of pro-black women, if you're a pro-black woman and you have a social media platform, you're probably in this weird space because a lot of your supporters are going to be black women and a lot of your supporters are going to be black men. So anytime they say anything about black men, they get harassed and mercilessly trolled. I've noticed that, and I'm like, okay, so you have no problem with the 100 videos that this woman has made saying certain things about black women or racism, but she makes one video about black men and you talk shit about her. Wow, he said he'll jump over 10. Wow. I believe that, Vanessa West. I'm telling you, most black men who identify as pro-black hate black women, including those hotep dudes, including the ones who are on social media and TV using pro-blackness as a platform to make money, because pro-blackness is about black men. That's very true. Delphia, it's possible that she would have been judged. I just wish she had just said, forget it. Because like I said, she was young enough to be able to move on. Some of them may have a black man. I can care less. I doubt it. That's sad, Sphinx like. Right, divested swirler. Jail, child support, not wanting, marriage, not wanting to financially support Black women, not wanting to be loyal or faithful. How does that not represent struggle for a Black woman? You're right. That's an interesting point, Mariah, because it does seem like a lot of rage for someone that just encountered her. Yeah, divested swirler. Everything they say about us is them. That's why they get so triggered by Black women's platforms on social media. The reason they get upset about Black women talking about them divested swirler is because Black men are very concerned about their image, and they know how damaging their words have been about our image, and they're trying to prevent the same thing from happening to them. Yes, Mariah. They have no problem putting up with stuff from Black women. I literally know this dude that is traveling, we'll say like 9 hours one way to a different state for an Asian woman who is still legally married. She has one child with her husband and another child that she has had since she's been separated. And he goes to see her every weekend, gives her money, pays her bills, and is talking about he's in love with her. The same dude has 4 children by 2 different women and refuses to date Black single mothers. So see, Black men have no problem with single mothers. They just don't like Black single mothers. And part of that is because they don't like Black women. And the other part of it is because they don't like Black children. Right, I can care less, because they date out at twice the rate of Black women. And why is it our concern what happens to the Black race if Black men don't care? Men are supposed to lead. So if Black men's actions are showing that they don't value marriage and they don't value commitment to Black women, then why should we care what happens to the collective? Right, Tap. We want younger Black women to know the truth so that they can make different decisions. And so they don't sit around having hope for a collective of men that don't give a fuck about Black women. A lot of Black men only care about Black women when they see a Black woman in a relationship or marriage with another man. They even do that with Black dudes. You can have a past relationship with a Black man who mistreated you, but if another man comes along, treats you well, and values you enough to marry you, financially provide for you, and love you, then that dude will get mad, and it's like, well, why do you care? Because you just like to knock women up and make them baby mamas or live off of them for a few months and move on with your life. So why do you care about that Black woman moving on? Right, Mariah, you remember that guy, what is his name? Childish Gambino. During an interview, he said the best orgasm that he had was when a non-Black woman called him the N-word during sex. So they get off on being racially mistreated as long as it's a non-Black woman. They love it. They're totally turned on by it. See, this is why I don't understand. They talk about Candace Owens and they're like, oh, her man is probably a racist. And it's like, well, a lot of y'all date racist women and you don't care. Yep, Bruna, that's what they call them. Now, notice, because with Halle Berry, she's biracial, right? So you'll notice with biracial men that date non-Black women, they'll say, well, He's half white, so I can understand why he would be with a non-black woman. But with Halle Berry, she's a bedwench, and they make fun of her and they say, "Oh, she must have a hard time keeping a man." When you have money on your own, you're probably less inclined to stay around and deal with BS. So she's probably got her a man somewhere that takes her out, fulfills her needs, but she probably doesn't need to be in a relationship if that's not what she wants. They love race play, Divested Swirler. They love race play. And they call Serena Williams a bedwench, Bruna, even though Serena Williams primarily dated black men, but those men didn't actually propose to her. And they say little things about her husband, like, oh, he doesn't have a lot of money. He owns Reddit. So that will be worth some money. And even without that, most people don't have Serena Williams' net worth, but he's not Kendu Isaacs and Kevin Williams. He's not a broke dude that had to use his wife for a job. He's actually a businessman. So, and it's interesting because they encourage black women to date broke and unemployed black men, but then will laugh if a black woman is in an interracial relationship or marriage with a man who makes less money than her. Yes, Delphia, because they believe that the race comes through the line of the father. So if that's the case, then why do they care about black women dating out? These black men have been on social media for years saying that they can create a new black race and a quote-unquote better black woman with non-black women. You had black men saying that it's not worth it to deal with black women or to deal with women who had black mothers. Literally saying, well, if you prefer biracial women, make sure her mother's not black. And then they had the audacity to get mad at Meghan Markle. Okay? Very true, Tappy is from Atlanta. Divested Swirler, I don't blame her, because I think her boyfriend now is a rich Arab man, like an oil tycoon. But yeah, because remember, after the whole situation with Chris Brown, there were a lot of black men on social media saying, oh, well, she must have done something to make him react that way. And it's like, no, maybe he's just an abusive asshole. Notice when biracial and half Vietnamese Karrueche Tran started talking about how Chris Brown was abusive to her, they were silent. Because it's like, yeah, if a man is abusive, he's going to do that to whoever he's with. But I don't blame Rihanna. I mean, because I wonder if the thing that turned her off to black men was the way that so many black men reacted to her being abused. Even though she wasn't the one that actually reported Chris Brown, I don't think. I think they were in the car, he was beating her up, and someone who saw what was happening dialed 911, and that's how he ended up being arrested. But even with that, and even though she never trashed him in the media, even though he deserved it, yeah, a lot of these black men were saying that she deserved what happened to her. So that's why I feel like, no, black women don't have to get over the things that these men have said, because they've been very hateful and they're only changing their tune for financial reasons and to protect their image. So we have the right to remind them, and more importantly, other black women of the hateful things that these men have said over the years. I believe that, Mariah. A lot of biracial women with non-black mothers. Because there was this story that circulated on Facebook of this black guy that had a child with a white woman, and I think he had his sister or somebody braid the little girl's hair, and he showed the text messages of this black woman basically saying she didn't want her daughter's hair that way because it made her look quote unquote too black. And he was all upset, and all the mammies got upset. And I'm like, don't you realize he probably realized this about her when he got with her? I think it's LeVar Ball. I think that's who it is, Mariah. Yeah, he doesn't date black women because he probably got that from his father and his mother. Yes, I can care less. See, they're not saying anything about Jennifer Hudson's ex-fiance and how he's trying to fleece her financially. They said nothing about Kendu Isaacs. They're saying nothing about, well, I think his name is Kevin Hunter, Wendy Williams' husband. They're saying nothing about that because they don't care about black women being taken advantage of by black men. They only laugh at the few stories about black women being, in certain situations with non-black men. And it's like, okay, but the majority of time, that's not what's happening in those relationships. Right, divested swirler. The reason they call black women bed wenches, who are in relationships with non-black men, is because they want sexual access to black women. They want to be able to pump and dump black women while they go off and marry and create other relationships with non-black women. And so by more and more black women dealing with non-black men, that means that they won't have black women to use and abuse. I can care less. I don't think they're attractive either. Yep, one of those boys does have a white baby mama. Uh-huh. But see, what black men would say is, well, they, I can understand why they would deal with white women because their mother is white. And it's like, well, okay, keep that same energy for biracial black women. Or for black women in general. Like, just stop trying to force yourself on people who don't want you. Yeah, I can care less. Like, she's definitely a brown-skinned woman on the lighter side. But they still were triggered. They were so triggered. And they were hoping that the wedding didn't go through. It's like, why are you wishing misery on someone? And then they were pointing out there was some picture of Prince Harry in a Halloween costume with the swastika. And they were saying, oh, he's racist. And it's like, okay, but you literally had Childish Gambino just say that the best orgasm that he had was a non-black woman calling him the N-word. So you like race play when it's non-black women, so let this girl live her life. Delphia, she did try to protect him, and these men still dragged her. They were saying, oh, because I think she's from Barbados. And they were saying, oh, a lot of Caribbean women are hot-tempered, and we never know what happened in that car. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't justify him beating the crap out of her. Very true, Mariah. She's like the woman crush for a lot of men across racial lines. Yep, same with Lupita. Yes, divested swirler. I know there was a case of a soccer player. I think he's African, but then he moved to Europe, some country in Europe. And his wife, he let his wife be in charge of all his finances. And she literally siphoned off all his money. Like, he has no idea what happened to it. And after that, he married a black woman. And I'm like, okay. Like, oh, why would a black woman even take him after he's broke with no money? Yep, Mariah. Exactly. You have black men all over social media saying, oh, once a black woman deals with a non-black man, we shouldn't take her back. And it's like, okay. But yet these men will go out here and they'll have children and emotional baggage after dealing with these women and then think they should come back to a black woman. And you have black women dealing with those little interracial children, doing their hair, taking them in, And it's like, okay, but if the tables were turned, this man would not take you back. Yep, divest this world, or a lot of Black women do love the struggle. A lot of Black women feel like there's something noble about struggling with these men. And it's like, well, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's your decision, but don't try to put that off on other people. And don't try to tell women on this side of the spectrum that we should just get over all of the things that these men have said. Because you just have to understand, ladies, that even participating in these conversations is giving these men what they want. Because I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago where they were saying that when they were laughing about the thought of Black women and Black children losing access to housing and food benefits, they were saying, well, once these women are broke, then they'll have to deal with us. I saw a video of a guy basically saying, oh, yeah, you can deal with a woman and just pay her $5, enough for her to get something off of the $1 menu. Why? Because a lot of these men are bitter that they don't have what it takes to attract the high quality women. They're bitter about the fact that they can only deal with women that are average or less than average. And a lot of these men, quiet as is kept, but a lot of these men that say they have a preference for non-Black women. Listen, if you're an average or below average dude, that's what you're going to pull whoever you date. And so when they realize they can't deal with the non-Black women that they want, they come back over here bitter and angry. Yeah, Mariah, they do. Listen, Black men across the board are the biggest swirlers in the world, so I don't understand why they get triggered by Black women doing it. I have noticed that Black women in different parts of the world don't worry about other people caring about their dating choices, and I don't blame them. Yes, divested swirler. A lot of Black women, it's almost, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a desire to feel needed. But a lot of Black women love feeling like, oh, okay, I can build this man up and, I love this man. So he doesn't have to do anything for me. And it's like, okay, if you like to struggle, that's fine. But don't talk about other women who have self-esteem. Very true, Vanessa. Very true. They called her a bed wench. But notice when Black men talk about dating out, they say, well, I have the right to say that. And, you shouldn't, quote unquote, dick police Black men. That's what they say. But they really get in their feelings about Black women suggesting that Black women do the same. Yes, Mariah, playing mommy to their children. And they don't understand that's the real mammying. They try to say, oh, divested Black women or Black women in interracial relationships are the real mammies. It's like, no, a mammy is being a wet nurse to other people's children. A mammy is being a wet nurse to Becky's children. And that's what a lot of Black women are doing, because a lot of Black men have children with non-Black women. There was a guy that got called out in a Facebook group for that. He was talking all this shit about Black women in interracial relationships, and someone pointed out the fact that he has 2 children by 2 non-Black women. So it's like, okay, the Black woman that deals with you would be the mammy because she would be playing the wet nurse to some white woman's children. Yes, Vanessa. Because I think his child's mother is like Latina. And Rihanna was the closest thing to a Black woman that he dated, and she's lighter skinned. After that, he was with Karrueche Tran, who's Vietnamese and Black, I think, and then his kid's mom is Mexican. Yes, divested swirler. Because again, to them, they feel like our only purpose is to be their pump and dump. So when other groups of men are willing to marry us and treat us well, that will mean that more Black women will start having standards and requirements for men across the board, meaning that more Black women will be less willing to be their pump and dump. Yes, Mariah, I've seen that in the grocery store several times. I've seen them with fully white children when they're with their white girlfriends, or I've seen them deal with white women that have other children by different Black men. I've seen it. I've definitely seen it. Well, guys, this has been a good conversation. I just wanted to pop on very quickly and give my thoughts. Please pay attention to these magicians and these wizards on YouTube who try the sleight of hand by trying to change the narrative, by trying to act like, oh, well, we don't all feel this way. Look at the statistics and look at the fact that a lot of these men across the board are not in marriages with Black women where they are the primary financial provider. Most of these men are not married to Black women, period. And understand that the reason that a lot of these channels have grown the way that they have grown is because the majority of Black men support those messages. They're just concerned about protecting their image. So Black women, it is my suggestion that if you are on YouTube, you should not support any Black man's platform if he is not married to and financially providing for the woman that he's with. For any Black women who come across this who may be pro-Black, be careful about supporting these Black men who only use you for money and content, but who are not actually involved with Black women. All right? Thanks, Bruna, Mariah, Tap, Delphia, Mariah, Divested Swirler, Sphinx Like. Did I miss anybody? Let me go back up. Vanessa. I can care less. Thanks to all of you for joining the chat and participating in the conversation. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good weekend.